Hello, Fort McMurray. I'm Melanie Galea, your host of Discover Fort McMurray. I know it's been a little while, but we're going to be very active coming in the next few weeks and few months with Discover Fort McMurray. And a very good friend of mine, Kara, said to me, "Hey, can you help us out? We have a great cause." So, Kara, tell us exactly what's going on, and so that we can get right into your presentation about how people can help.
Sure, that's great. Thanks, Melanie, for having me. I'm involved in the Poverty Reduction Network, and next week is Poverty and Homeless Awareness Week. So we would just like everybody in the community to understand that poverty impacts every single one of us. It's not just people who may be struggling and living on the streets, but it could be our neighbors and our friends next door. So this campaign that we're doing is just to increase awareness within our community, and that everybody really can have an active helping hand into getting the word out there, but then also learning and increasing their own awareness.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's get right into it.
Awesome. All right. So Poverty Reduction Network, a lot of people probably don't even know what that is or haven't heard about it. So the PRN is what we refer to it, is made up of several organizations who aim to reduce poverty and the effects of poverty within the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo. So we also do look at rural impact as well. So it's not just the city. We'll just bounce to the next slide.
Okay.
So the PRN, we are a group of different agencies, like I said, that have come together that really have that intent in our community to help people. So we're part of the social profits. So we meet monthly and we discuss things like networking, creating partnerships. We data share because it's really important to see what other organizations are collecting. We talk about that capacity building amongst ourselves. We focus on strategic planning where poverty is concerned. And more importantly, what we want to do at the end of the day is identify and address the gaps within our community. Every coordinated approach amongst our community stakeholders and our key partners play a really important in the outcomes for individuals and families who are at risk with poverty and homelessness. So meaning we can solve poverty if we all come together.
Gotcha.
We'll just skip to the next one.
Yep.
So poverty is not only a lack of income. A lot of people really don't understand what that definition is. Poverty is the lack of ability to secure basic human rights and opportunities to achieve the standards of well-being in the community. Poverty costs taxpayers in Alberta $7.1 to $9.5 billion annually. It's enormous, right? So if you think about people that live in our region who cannot meet those basic needs, they are living below the poverty line. So this is some of the awareness that we want to teach people next week.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. So this little diagram is fantastic. It outlines what the roots of causes are for poverty. So having accessible healthcare services, that equity, inclusion, transportation, income and employment, the child development piece, education and literacy, and accessible and affordable housing. Every single person deserves these basic human rights. And poverty reduction programs can divert people from experiencing homelessness by us tackling these root causes.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So we'll go to the next one. So a lot of people probably are not aware, but poverty actually affects over 7,085 people over the age of 15 that live in Wood Buffalo. People who are affected by poverty are Indigenous people, people with disabilities, recent immigrants, our LGBTQ+, our racialized communities and women, single parents, and people who live alone who are disproportionately impacted by poverty. So poverty really doesn't have that standard of you fit into this mold. It affects everybody. And like I said earlier, a lot of people don't even know that their neighbors and friends are probably struggling to make ends meet and are probably living in poverty.
Wow. This is a real eye opener. That's for sure. Like 1 in 11 people over the age of 15 are living in poverty in our region. Like that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people, and with COVID coming down, we're not really sure what those effects of COVID are going to be in the future to see what that impact is, right? So what's going to happen in the future. We're going to just have to wait and see if our poverty increases, if it stabilizes, with our rate of income within the city, with what the minimum wage is, and then just honestly the prices of groceries and housing and everything else, right? That all impacts where people are at today. Next week, we're going to be talking about our living wage. A living wage is the hourly wage one must make to be able to provide their basic needs and to fully participate within their community. So we've done some great things with the living wage. We're actually going to be doing an event next week on Monday, October 17th at the Eagle Ridge YMCA Community Center, where employers can come learn about what it is for a living wage. The hourly wage must make, for one person to make to provide all their basic necessities, is really important. Fort McMurray's living wage is actually $26.50, which is $11.50 higher than the actual minimum wage. So we're not even there. It's a big continuum.
That's shocking. That's actually really shocking. So is that like 40 hours a week at $26.50?
Yes,
wow.
That is correct.
So, do you happen to know what Edmonton's is, just by any chance? Or I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Yeah, no worries. I don't know what Edmonton's is, but I do know that Fort McMurray living wage, we are the second highest in the province, and we are the first highest is Canmore.
Wow.
Yeah. So in the living wage, it's a calculation, and we do this annually. There's actually a provincial living wage coalition that works on this. So we provide stats. So this living wage is literally just the wage for Fort McMurray. So this does not actually include rural, and that's because it's really hard to get some of the statistics and the data we need in order to produce this. It's based on the double occupancy for a family of 4. The average hourly offered wage has actually decreased by $1.15 since before the pandemic, even despite all the raising costs and inflation that everyone's faced with.
Wow.
Right now, unemployment seems to be on a downtrend, which is great, but it was at 7.3 in 2021. So again, this year is going to really determine with the impacts of COVID and with some of the data that everyone's collecting to see where we're at with that.
Right.
Average hourly wage offered decreased. I already said that. So the hourly wage decreased in the last year as well, which is significant if you're trying to provide, if you're a single parent and you have 3 or 4 children at home, or even if you're a dual parent household and you have a couple of kids at home, it's really hard to provide for your family right now.
Right. Gotcha.
All right, so we'll move forward. So just some other stats for you. So we were talking about the core root causes. So poverty affects child development. So 1 in 3 children in every class in Wood Buffalo are actually living in poverty. Again, this has been a little bit on the downturn since COVID, but we have seen it to be on the rise. And it's important to note when children grow up in poverty, they are impacted long-term. So developmentally, socially, emotionally, and they're also impacted right up into adulthood, as well as their families, the organizations and the institutions that they're working with to support them. Poverty prevention programs and services can actually break the cycle of poverty and support the strong development to healthy children. So it's really something that our community wants to invest in.
Right. Gotcha. Ready for the next slide?
Yep, you bet. So another one of those root causes is affordable transit. So 13,040 people in Wood Buffalo over the age of 15 use public transit as their main mode to get to work. So this cost has increased about 20% for adults and youth since 2018. That's a significant cost. So if you rely on public transit to get to work, to school, and it's increased 20%, then you're going to have to figure out how you're going to be able to afford that. And RMWB has been looking into some accessible programs and everything, but currently our city does not have a publicly accessible affordable transit program, and that's a gap in our area.
Wow.
So food security. Since 2019, the number of people being served at the food bank in Wood Buffalo has continued to increase, and it's heightened by a rise of inflation and the pandemic and the driven economy of the instability that's happening. Last year, 5,073 food hampers were distributed, and they had an increase of 237 new intakes. So that's really high. So that's people who are using our food bank services throughout our community. So again, this is really good information when there's food drives, whether it's at your school or in the community or at the grocery store. Take part. There are a lot of people in need in our community that could really use a hamper.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, there's decades of research has also shown a strong relationship between poverty and poor mental health. And poverty can directly worsen mental health and mental health symptoms. So this is really true if they're accessing those supports. So food, transit, child development, mental health, everything that you need in the community is really based on that mental health feeling. So that's kind of ties in with our poverty and one of those root causes as well.
This is blowing my mind. I had no idea that this was going on in our region.
Yeah, and again, I think that's part of why this awareness campaign is so important, Melanie, is because most people, we know we have residents in our community that are homeless, and that we have some great organizations out there working with people who are homeless and who are not able to afford housing. But poverty goes past that, right? It hits so many different areas that people are not aware. And I think next week is important because the more we can increase awareness for someone to understand what is poverty and the impacts that it has on you and your community, then maybe people can take an active step forward and try to be part of the solution.
Right.
In homelessness, housing between 2019 and 2021 has increased by 15%. People new to homelessness had also increased by 20%. So that's really high. And that's, again, a stat from our community.
Wow.
So we'll go to the next slide. So next week, we're having Poverty and Awareness Homelessness Week right here in Fort McMurray. We have quite a few scheduled activities. On October 11th, I had an opportunity to go to City Council where the mayor read the reading of Poverty and Homelessness Awareness Week Proclamation, and that'll be proclaimed for next week, which is fantastic. I mentioned earlier that we have the living wage session where we're inviting local employers to come and learn about the living wage within our community and how it affects the business. That's going to be at 7 to 9 p.m. at the YMCA in Eagle Ridge. On October 18th, it's the International Day for Eradication of Poverty. So this is worldwide. So poverty and homelessness affects not just our city, but our province and our country and around the world. So it's a day where everyone's coming today to try to eradicate poverty. The Support Through Housing team are offering 2 tax clinics on October 18th and 19th at the Unifor building to support residents who meet their eligibility to work on their tax claims and help them with the questions that they have. And on Wednesday, October 19th, the YMCA in Northern Alberta at Eagle Ridge is doing a sock, mitt, and hat drive. We're also accepting any type of personal products between the hours of 5 to 7 at the Eagle Ridge Community Center. Again, if people cannot get to these events, we completely understand, but every grocery store has a food hamper donation. Go to the food bank, step out, see how you can support our community. We also encourage all residents to go to the United Way website and participate in Make the Month. Make the Month is a virtual simulator, Melanie. It's pretty neat. You should go on there, and you might be surprised if you can afford your basic necessities when you're faced with real life decisions.
Wow. Okay, so Make the Month, wb.ca is where somebody could go and do that.
That's right. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So Melanie, other than that, if we could just maybe ask people, we do have a Facebook page. Again, we are a network. So we're just a group of people who work at different organizations who come together. So we don't have a building. We don't have, I guess, something a little bit more structured, but we have an amazing Facebook page. So if they could go give us a like at Poverty Reduction Network, that would be fantastic. They can hear all about our activities next week. they can comment and join, or if they want to know about other additional awareness activities that we are participating in, that would be great.
Yeah.
I do want to thank you and for everything that you're doing today to help spread our word, as it is really important. And I think it's fantastic that you've had me on here today.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And listen, if there's any other organizations out there that need a little hand and want to get some of the word out there, I'm more than happy to always be doing that. So just to recap, you know, like if you are busy next week, but you still want to make a difference, you're at the grocery store, donating to the food bank is probably one of the strongest ways that you can do that. I also know that Santa's Anonymous, they are also going to be involved. You know, they do something every year with their hampers and their giveaway program every single year. Giving to those two organizations, I think, are going to be a great way. If you don't have anything to give, you have your time. You know, joining one of those food drives and donating your time. You know, I've done that with my office, and we've spent some time doing that. And it blows my mind how generous this community is. And 1 in 10, like 1 in 11 people,
1 in 11,
kids, 1 in 3 kids. That's a crazy stats right here in our own community. So you can do something. And even if it's just an hour here or an hour there, or a little bit of food here and there, you know, I know it'll be greatly appreciated. So Kara, thank you to you and all the organizations that are taking this on. It takes someone willing to make a difference. And so,
thanks, Melanie.
Yeah, thanks so much. All right, Fort McMurray, you know what to do. Go check out the Poverty Reduction Network. Next week is their awareness week. Maybe just be a little bit more aware. And if you can help somebody with a coffee, or if you can help somebody by making a donation, that'd be greatly appreciated. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Kara. Thank you so much for your time and bringing this up. All right, Fort McMurray, I hope you're having a great day. Thanks so much.